Okay. I'm I'm an odd duck, I guess, on YouTube, and I don't know what to do about it. I've come to question what kind of person certain people are, like what like to come up to kind of sum up their character, and I mean I've I've been, really bad in terms of like considering what kind of character am I based on what it is I have and haven't done, and what it is I do and don't do, and what it is I say and don't say. But um, I I can't I can't help but make yet another video where I'm tired of it, um, and I know that Anton's tired of it, but um, I wanted to make this video because we have somebody now that they're really smart. As a matter of fact, a lot of the way Anton is able to get ideas across is by kind of always qualifying statements, eking out colonizing, treating ideas. He doesn't particularly work in syllogisms, and he's damn dogma. He doesn't want to land anywhere himself for the sake of landing would, I guess, make him by definition dogmatic. But I've caught a snake before, and I've caught flies before, and I'm pretty good. I think, as as an antagonist, not for the sake of antagonism, but of finding exceptions to rules. And I got on YouTube originally, and Azrianok was on speaking Wittgenstein, and so my first move is not to engage him; it's to take him off guard. And so I take him off guard, and and he recovers, and we have a good laugh over it, right? And then the same thing with Ben Caruth, kind of like I was testing him, but I was like, he was he's a different soul, and I don't want to cross the boundaries too many times and do it in a bad way. But then Mr. Cropper came on, and I criticized Mr. Cropper, thinking, come on, he'll come around. And it was kind of this chummy sort of, and maybe it's because I'm from the '70s and raised in the '70s, and there was kind of this, hey, check this out, hey, check that out, and kind of this funny sort of chummy way of of living, like kind of this back and forth that happens. And so and then Steph Bach comes on, and he was a real tough cookie to crack, but I went ahead and used Chomsky uh, generative grammar actually to argue for kind of an exception where he his notion of DROs and his notion of DROs and kind of an anarcho-capitalism, trying to find exceptions to how it is. I didn't think that would work, and it didn't mean that I didn't admire it. I admire everybody that I pick on, including Mr. Cropper. And so, but Steph Bot, he couldn't, he didn't. He summed everything up to nonsense. He listened at first, but then he summed it up and he blocked me from his channel, right? And so be it. I wasn't able to make a buddy out of him on my weird queer quest of being me. And then, and then I mean, I guess if there was anyone else, I'm not thinking of them right now. But then Anton comes on, right? So this is the weird thing. I paint, right, and so I toy with Azrianok, and he makes a book, and he gives me a book cover deal on it, and I thought that's great. And then the same, Ben's a great author, his poetry, and had I not been laid up in the hospital, I would have volunteered to do his book cover. And Anton's an author, and so is StephBot. And so I guess that it's my queer way of, because I have a hard time getting, I get into galleries and I get into things, but if it's not methodical in some way, it's just, it doesn't have a zest of life to it that I want. Anyway, and so it's really weird. Anton will not block me from his channel, but we've had our bouts, and so what I'm getting at here is this: is that finally, I think, I legitimately, listened and appreciated what Anton had to say and offer, but it didn't mean that I wasn't going to spend some time to find an exception to the rule, because I got to give it a go. Got to give it a go. It's what I do. It's kind of how I clear my head in my spare time, as I listen to what people have to say, and I that's what I do. And so I finally, after actually reading Az's book and getting a gist of what he was saying with regards to recursive language, and well, before we go there, Az and I, when Anton came on the scene, Anton was like fawning towards Az, like, how can you help me? How can you help me get ahead, get more viewers? He was really looking to up his channel, and Az said, well, I'll let you do it, but you have to as you have to respond to Das Pook, because he knew what I was up to, and Az and I agreed, like, okay, if he can respond to me and let me deal with me, then Az will give him a shout out. And that was our first interaction, our first videos, which after the fanfare goes down, I close down the videos, right? I privatize them, and that's a problem in and of itself, I guess. But okay, so the whole thing though is, I ask Az, well, what do you think of Anton? He's like, hey, he's a good guy, blah blah blah. But in the end, he's also like, yeah, he just reminds me of my college professor. He says kind of the same things. And anyway, I guess the point is that uh, I found a legitimate, demonstrable through Az's work, actually, the exception to what Anton was saying. Anton would make grand comments about how we are and how language is, and so he's making generalizations, and the exception, whether it's mediocre, tiny, whether or not it has any real bearing on anything or not, the exception to the rule was that here's these Piraha that are different than just the other oral languages. They are different because they don't have recursion, and so I'm finally got this, and I was like, okay, so now it's time for performance. Now it's time to get all rowdy and put on my acting pants and go rah to Anton again. Like, okay, we found your exception, or I found your exception, and I'm going to put it forth. And so I put it forth in these last videos, and then so this is what Anton says. This is his reply, right? Or this is where it starts. Or I mean, we'd gone back and forth, but this for this particular engagement, he says this in Rambling Digressions on Humanity at 7:32, because I guess this is important, right, for my argument. For this is where he concedes it, but he underhandedly does so.
Oral noetics, and you can't really get at this thing called the pure oral state. Now, this is where I think Spook's having this odd kind of haggle. He's going, hey, look, no, you're only talking about recursive languages, and I mean non-recursive. There's these other kinds of languages that you're now telling us about. See, that's the problem. Language is historical.
Okay, so he's trying to catch me in the paradox. See, you're the one telling us you're involved in the recursivity, but the exception is that here's a language that's human, that's adult, that doesn't have recursion, and it doesn't have within that language, it does not have a history, right? And so a lot of back and forth goes on where I'm like, okay, hey, look, this is Occidental, it's Western, it's hierarchical, and what it is you're stating, Corey, is that you're the one that's stating that these things are um, almost universal rudiments, and so the exception is no. Here is an exceptional group of humans. Here is an exceptional language that does not have these rudiments, and so I'm asking for a retraction, right? And so, and he says, "Oh, so this is a haggle." Okay, so then you skip forward to this recent video, right? This is where he concedes it, but he does it so underhandedly. He won't give me any credit for this, but he concedes it. Right, and this is on A Host of Hopes at 8:49. I don't know if I can get it to play.
Monetary capitalism, like as a philosophy,
Sorry,
but it's the degenerate ways in which people think they're going to be happy by being provided for.
Okay, so it's about degenerate.
That's the problem.
But hang on.
And my hope is that one day people will wake up and they will see, and when I say people, this is a little shout out here to the spoof who seems unable to understand. When I say people, when I'm talking about humans, for the most part, we're talking in very broad strokes, and we mean those people who are here, modern Westerners who are watching, who are likely to hear this video, who are watching YouTube, and we're talking about this condition which has become a pervasive condition in the modern Westernized.
Okay, and so right there, instead of making the ubiquitous claims on language, he finally concedes, but he does so in an underhanded way by saying, almost by switching the argument and saying, well, Das Pook he doesn't seem to understand that these are who we're talking about. That was my point the whole time. So if you scroll down, on that video, you'll find my comments stating, at 8:58, you state this, which was exactly my point the whole time. So in effect, I won the haggle, right? In the first place, essentialism. Yeah, I was accusing him of making these generalizations and saying that these were essential to language, and then there's an exception. Okay, so I was okay because I sat there and I thought, well, shit, conference report got on, and he's like, I don't know if Das Pook is a genius or he's stupid and blah blah blah, and I was like, well, shit, this thing's getting out of hand. It's not going to sound good by any means, and so like all of my other previous videos, I'm like, okay, Corey conceded the point underhandedly to me, and he made an exception qualifier, a caveat, and that's all I wanted him to do. It would have been nice to get credit, but I didn't need the credit, so I shut down my videos, right? And then because I thought, hey, this is over. He calls me a coward on my page because he couldn't comment back, which was really weird because I thought we had gone through all of it, and then so I I put up the Everett video, and he concedes once again in sort of this way, because we know how he meanders and qualifies everything, such as in this one he's like, cultural variety itself seems to surpass dominant accounts of what is routinely meant by the human. Still, what is the advantage, disadvantage of identifying with these particular humans rather than with other animals and aspects of the